Hey, is it that time already? It must be. We're in the studio, ready to roll. See if we can catch up with our resident storyteller, our man about town, our bon vivant, the man who seems to know everybody. He's going to prove that today here. RAAD Gatos. He's back.
I am not the storyteller today.
You're not?
No. I definitely.
There's somebody who knows more stories than you do?
Oh my God, yes. And probably she can't tell some of them. But no, I actually was driving over here to do this show today, and it kind of like hit me that I'm actually sitting with really a couple of OC icons. I mean, Pascal, I've gotten used to a little bit.
We take him for granted.
Greer's like this unicorn. Like, I've been trying to get her on this show. She's all over. She's so busy with everything that she does.
Greer's
so
OC. I see it everywhere. When I went to the Newport Beach Film Festival this year, on the screen, Greer's OC, brought to you by...
Very cool. Yes.
But I really was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do the show. Like really, seriously, superstars in Orange County. I've known the both of you guys for so long. I used to go to his restaurant when I was in design school because I wanted a little bit of culture, right? And it was like, oh my God, at least there's a water fountain and a couple of red umbrellas, and I can pretend I'm like at some European bistro, right?
Exactly.
On Bristol. And then you, I mean, wow, seriously. I mean, I think I almost put it in the description for the show today when I said influencer, and I almost put between brackets.
No.
Before influencer was a word.
Yes.
Right?
She's the connector.
She's absolutely a connector. And
going back to the days when she was...
I'm so happy to have you here.
papers.
Really, you can't imagine.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
Which
super
papers
fun.
were you with? You were with Daily
Hold on. Wait your turn.
Just trying to add to her, ambiance.
Who is
there.
talking?
Huh?
Who is talking?
It's
now?
the guy who always talks. It's like the controlled voice that keeps coming on.
God.
Odd. Yeah. God, the voice. Oh my God!
Voice of
Do
God.
not. No,
I like
he does
that.
not need that, Greer.
Yeah.
It's already hard enough for him to get in the door.
I like that.
We do not want that. You like that? Thank you. Maybe the God from Monty Python. Stop groveling. But I really am happy to have you here, and we have even more reason. I mean, Greer OC, you really, and I don't think people realize how long you've been doing this. And in different formats, like you like from the journalism side, whatever. But before even that, because especially linking with the fact that the title of the book that we will touch on is Born in OC.
Yes.
Why don't you give people a little bit of background on you, Greer? My guest is Greer Wylder, by the way, if you have not realized it by now, and give back people a little bit of background about you. Because people know about you with Greer OC, they know about the Born in OC, but give a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, I was born in Reno, Nevada. No, I'm not going to start that
That's
far
why you're
back.
not in the book.
No, but
That's why she's not in
the back in the book. But I did grow up in Newport Beach. I moved here in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And so I've lived here a long, long time. I ended up going to Cal State Long Beach, which I loved.
Go Beach.
Journalism. I was a journalism major, and part of the reason I was a journalism major is just because I'm not great in math, not great in science. So I had to choose something, and I love reading, and I love newspapers. Loved newspapers, magazines, all of those things.
Right.
What's a newspaper?
I know. So I majored in journalism. I really loved it. And then I became a very young mom straight out of college. In fact, I was pregnant when I graduated. So that was not planned. But I really didn't know what I really wanted to be a mother, but I also enjoyed writing. So I started working for a publication that I think was called OC Metro. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And at the time, my husband was the editor, and he was in charge of a lot of local.
It's like a magazine,
Newport
right?
Center News. There was there's a group, and then he went on to the Daily Pilot, and so I kind of followed him to the Daily Pilot. So I was there for about 14 years. The Daily Pilot was acquired by the LA Times, so I ended up working for the LA Times. Then I worked for a lot of Huntington Beach Independent, Laguna Beach Independent. At one point, they had one in Santa Monica. So I was kind of...
We had one in San Clemente.
So I was covering very much the same thing I am right now. Lifestyle, fashion, dining trends, events, a lot of charity stuff.
How did you get into that? Like going into journal? Did you gravitate? Was it a lucky thing? Like, do you remember that first?
It was more like what I enjoyed. Okay. It was basically there was some other people that were doing what I was doing, but I said, they were asking for a lot of money. I said I can do that for basically for less money. It was something I loved. It's not, I've never been a person that would cover something in a negative way. So that's kind
Where
of
do you
how it
think
went.
that? Where do you think that passion for covering that subject matter comes
I think
from?
just growing up, just being what my interests were. I've always been interested in art and fashion, travel. Just my interests.
And just kind of
basically.
like a healthy curiosity and
Yeah.
and passion for what's new and kind of like
And living here in Orange County, there's no shortage of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we are so spoiled with all the great restaurants that we have, the retail. Our retail is like world class,
Yeah.
really, with South Coast Plaza, Fashion Island. We are very spoiled. So
yeah, I think Kathy, who does OC Fashion Week too, right?
Yes.
And I remember being floored by some of the statistics about like how much actually just in fashion, how powerful a market this is. And people, I think, don't realize that. So back in the 70s, back in the 80s, like, was it the same, or were we kind of like a bit of a maybe like lacking,
no, in my opinion,
or was it different?
it was different, but in some ways, I wouldn't say it was better. It was just more low key back in the 70s and early-ish 80s. It wasn't as luxury back then. It was
Right.
more like, more of a beach town
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Of course, there was Fashion Island, there was South Coast Plaza, but it really got very upscale, I'd say, in the 90s and
Yeah.
the 2000s, very much so.
And now it's almost hard. It's hard, but it's nice when you find a little bit of that in certain places. Like we've been in San Clemente since '87,
Okay.
right? So we kind of were late bloomers in a way because until that real estate pressure came up from North San Diego and from Newport, but downtown San Clemente, we were fortunate enough to have a historical downtown, but that has also bloomed. And so now you drive through on a Friday or a Saturday night and it's like active, it's happening, but it's nice also to be able to have that blend.
Yes, exactly.
And so, you got Balboa, you got certain pockets, Laguna still holds on a little bit of that. So, so it was more like that across the county, maybe a little bit more.
Yes. Yes.
What do you think was the catalyst? Like, why was it just?
I think a lot of developers, a lot of development came in and, I guess more money, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
The airport.
The airport, yes, it did expand
Yes.
quite a bit. The airport, I remember I went to the grand opening, reopening. I think that was the late 80s,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they really expanded that. You're right. So it was the airport.
Became more of a centralized hub.
and
Yeah,
much bigger, yeah.
for people who don't remember, that airport was a one building with the
Yes.
with the conveyor belt on the
You
outside.
had to walk down the
Right.
plane.
I
and then go
I
back
remember.
up.
And the statue, the John Wayne statue, was outside.
It was very tiny.
You
Yeah, it was
dropped
very
off at the
tiny.
curb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Long Beach has a little bit of that still.
I love
but
that.
it was half the size, if not even a quarter the size of Long Beach.
This is true.
Very cool. So then, how long did you do the journalism for? Like,
So
or do you still?
Well, what happened was I was at the Daily Pilot for 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, I got laid off, like a lot of people do.
In the business, yeah.
And this all, when I was laid off, it all happened at sort of a bad time in my life. I'm a mother of 4 boys, and one of them was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Wow.
So this all happened within 1 week. My son was diagnosed. I went to my editor and I said, I don't think I can do this amount of columns. I've got to take care of my son and understand this disease because type 1 diabetes is a complicated disease and it's scary when there's a diagnosis. And I really needed to learn everything about it. And my editor said, this is a bad time to tell you this, obviously, but we are making changes at the paper and you are not part of the change. So I lost my job.
Wow.
And my son was sick all within a week or two of those events.
And when was that?
That was in 2005. And so I went home, I was very upset, and I thought, well, I just lost my job. And not that my job was something I made a lot of money at or anything like that, but I enjoyed it a lot. And it was just something that I really enjoyed. And so after a while or a few weeks of being upset, I thought, well, I don't need the newspaper. I can do all that I was doing without the newspaper,
Yeah.
and I won't be as limited to the areas that they
Were
the
pigeonholing you
restraints.
kind of.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you like the term, but
Yes.
see, is that the time you decide to become a blogger?
Yes.
Yes.
She
Yeah,
is.
she was
She
very-
was
very-
presented to
I-
me as the #1 blogger in Orange County. Before influencers, bloggers, it was the big deal. In, what, 2010?
I created it in early or July 2006, so it's
Yeah.
actually, it's been a while. It's been like
Almost
a
20 years.
19, almost
It'll be-
20
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So I named my website Greer's OC because people know me by my name because it's so unusual. They knew me by my name in the paper, and it was like my Orange County. It's like the things that I like in Orange County, and I also send out a daily. Now it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday
Yeah.
e-blast. Yeah, so that's kind of it.
So
But your
you-
blogs were actually like a newspaper.
Yeah.
You had columns, different story, everything touched every part of the society or community. You really
Yes, you had the variety
structured
of
the whole thing.
different cultural
I think.
elements.
Yeah.
I remember this, Greer, because I was laid off in 2003 from WATNG.
I'm sorry.
Good things happen to good people,
Yes.
right? Great experience, but it wasn't. That was the case, right? And I honestly believe, if I may, on a minute, like I think there's some people that you were never supposed to work for somebody else. Like you may have worked for somebody else, but then you find out, okay, I understand why that didn't fit, right? Because I need to call my own shots. You work harder for yourself than you ever did maybe for somebody else. But I remember when you did your blog, I remember that because I was aware of you from the print. And then when you did that, and especially to Pascal's point, at that point in time, that was a big deal online. Like that was the medium. Forget about the influencer and all that stuff. And I remember when you launched that. And maybe at one point I was getting the email blasts, and it was literally like around 2 years from when I was starting my own stuff. So I recall, and your content was always like, you can tell with quality content.
Yeah, and believe me,
Like it was well written,
Yeah.
it was well researched, had a lot of depth of content. You could tell that your approach to it was based on a passion pursuit. It wasn't just, I'm just covering, you know?
but you,
Thank you.
No, it's true.
the impact was amazing.
It was very.
Because I remember, I cannot say using you, but communicating with you with newsletter, things like that, and announcing an event. Yeah, and once you put it on your blog, it really
It
works.
kind of almost made it official. This is now something to pay attention
Yeah,
to.
if Greer talk about you, you may have a success event.
Very nice. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how was that like at the beginning? Was it well received?
It
Did you
was
find-
it was bananas. It was bananas. I mean, people have asked me how did you do that? And I had an advantage because I already had a following,
Yeah.
and I had a following. It was before social media.
Yeah.
I mean, there was YouTube. YouTube came out around that time.
Yeah.
Facebook a couple years before, but
Yeah.
that was more for like college kids. This was before Instagram,
Yeah.
before Twitter. So it was like before really social media blew up. So it was bananas. I had so many subscribers like from the get-go. I couldn't believe it. I was selling ads. I've never sold a thing in my life. I had a meeting with the Irvine company. They actually wanted to buy it like before it was even launched, and I was like, what the? I got in my car and I was like, I cannot even believe what is happening to me. But I didn't want to sell it to the Irvine company because then I would be an Irvine company product. So, but I mean, it was really crazy. So it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun in the beginning. Yeah. And it's always,
You were everywhere. I mean, I remember I would go to something. There she is. There she is. You were everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, I knew later that you were a mom of four, but I mean, you covered so much territory.
yeah, I did. I do. I mean, I kind of still do.
You
I
still do, yeah. I know you.
But
still
you were
Yeah.
involved in everything.
Yeah,
like
she
you
was.
said.
She was everywhere.
And even at one point, many times I saw you when I was doing cooking demonstration at the
Yes.
farm.
Yes. Yes.
I say, oh, and then the owner of the farm say, Greer is here, Greer is here. So we not that they had to step up, but you make
You,
sure.
you better put on your A game now.
Exactly, I know, because I knew she was going to report it, because you're a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing, and you had power.
It's
You
a-
still have power.
it's yeah. I mean, but I couldn't do this really in other places. The Orange County is very special because there's so much going on here. I mean, I've never been short of what
What to write
cover.
about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
never. Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially with the emails, I probably get 200 emails a day. Different companies, different products, different PR people reaching out to me. Will you cover this? Will you cover? I mean, it is really.
So how do you
crazy.
decide, Greer? That's a good point, because when you first start, obviously, and it's a target-rich environment, right, in Orange County, and you're out there, and I think geographical location too, it kind of makes it doable, right, versus like everywhere, like LA, whatever, San Diego. How at this point, how do you select? How do you pick what you cover, what you don't cover?
I just have to. I have to be very selective, and every morning I look at my emails and I'm just delete. I don't even read. I just read the
the
subject.
header, yeah.
And then I star them, and the ones that stand out to me, I star them, and then I look at those later in the day. So I mean, I just had to be very choosy. There's so much going on. So, and then part of that is sometimes things are for advertising. Now, I'd say 10 years ago, I started doing a lot of social media. So I do social media not for just myself, but for other businesses. So that's like another side business
Yeah.
of mine. So
You do a lot of philanthropic events too.
do a lot of charity stuff. too.
Well, you're involved with the diabetes, with the juvenile diabetes, right?
Yes, it was called JDRF for
Yeah.
many years. They just
Rebranded, I think, right?
rebranded to
Yeah.
Beyond. No, wait, I'm gonna
Beyond
make
diabetes?
Beyond type 1 diabetes. I think that's the new name. It hasn't caught on with me yet.
It's not rolling off your tongue yet.
JDRF is always in my
Right.
head. So yeah, breakthrough or beyond. Anyways.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you know, call us, but
Yes.
we'll find out. Because I mean, I constantly get some stuff. It's like, oh, we heard the show, we'll be on the show, and I find that it's not a formal litmus test, but it has to have like a little depth to it, a little bit of layers to it, is when we basically have people on, because I mean, Lord, I can't believe this guy let me start this thing almost 10 years ago, right? And I told him 1 month at a time at the time, right? But so I was always curious, like, especially with so much to cover. And some of it is time sensitive, right?
Right,
Some of it is
exactly.
like, hey,
Yes,
if
yes.
you didn't cover it, it's gone.
Yeah,
It's
this
happening
is
this
true.
week.
This is true.
Right.
So do you post mostly once a week? Or
No,
twice a week?
I usually update the website at least 3 or 4 times a day. I mean, sorry, 4 times a week.
Week.
Yeah, 3, 4 times.
And
I was-
are you doing it on your own?
I do it all myself.
Wow.
I mean, back in the day, I had an office, I had
Yeah.
employees,
Yeah.
I had salespeople,
Yeah.
I had a secretary.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
What's your website name?
It was always Greer's OC.
Careers
Always
OC,
Greer's
yeah.
OC, yeah.
So
And-
did you find that when you got to that scale that you kind of got a little further away
Well,
from what you were enjoying? or-
No, it was just the fact that there was so much money going out.
yeah.
I mean, it never made sense to me to have an office because I thought, why am I paying rent
Right.
when you can do a lot of this remotely? So
Right.
remotely is the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I just as the economy changed,
Yeah, you have to adjust.
Yeah.
You have to
Just more
adjust to the
myself.
realities of, especially like you said, it's like when you got all that happening, you got a big nut to cover, and a lot of
Exactly.
stuff comes in, but a lot of stuff goes out. So at some point, you sit and have a kind of an honest conversation with yourself, right?
But you're also very generous.
You're very
For
generous
me-
of spirit. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because even in my industry, the restaurant industry, you always try to help a new restaurant. You
Right.
always try to help a restaurant you think need a little push. Just put the name there. And you are really, and you can tell, this is not advertising. You just come from what you want to do, want to help.
I think in a way it's a creative pursuit, and in a way, like any creative pursuit, sometimes it's not that you cannot do it. I mean, any journalist really, even like if you read somebody, right? I can only speak for myself. The people that you resonate with are the people that passion comes through. There's a genuine interest, there's genuine curiosity, and it shows. And I think with journalism, especially if you're digging into something and you're looking into something, what makes it interesting for me is that somebody actually has gone that extra mile, that actually gives you a little bit extra background. It's not just a, blurb. And it's interesting, especially these days, because so many. I had this conversation with a couple of people in advertising the other day, and I'm like, you guys are all pitching story. You're pitching story, but then you want it all in 40 some characters or less, right? So it's like you're not really pitching story. You're pitching cliff notes, right? But you're telling it that's a story. To me, that's just a cliff note. I want the depth of it because it's almost like watching a show or a movie, right? Where there's character development or no character development. The ones that resonate are the ones that actually explore deeper. Your cooking, same thing. I think that comes across from your work. Is that you have a real passion for what you do.
Well, okay. Well, back to the restaurant industry or business. I do understand that business. My mom, I grew up, she did own a restaurant. So I do understand
There you go.
the margins are very slim. Those people work so hard. They're not making a ton of money. It is a hard business. So my heart is really, I feel for these people that have restaurants. It's not easy. So.
And it just seems to get harder and tighter margins, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
I mean, we had Robert Duvall on, and him and Pascal were doing the meals for the LA fire.
Nice.
And we were talking about that, and then we kind of veered a little bit, and we started talking about all the people that actually don't have a place to work because the restaurants burned down. And that those people also, and I said to them, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, whenever we have an event or something where we can actually reach out to some of these people to do, then we provide them the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I mean, nothing is better than firsthand experience. Sounds like you had that with your mom.
Yeah. So.
What was, so let's shift gears for a minute. Born in OC. What was the inspiration?
So I'm not trying to go off on a weird tangent, but I am a long distance runner. One of the reasons I like to run is I can really think about things in my life. I can solve problems. It's like my alone time. And I was on a long run early January 2020. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is the time. I need to write a book because everything I do, writing, it's all online, social media, it's ephemeral. It disappears. There's nothing tangible.
Right.
I have a friend who's an artist and she can say, I painted that painting, but I've never had something that I can hold and say, this is mine.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was time to write a book. And also I've interviewed or I've known so many people in Orange County in all the years that I've lived here and growing up. And there's so many incredible people here in Orange County. So I thought I want to shine a light on those people. My other reason why I wrote the book is when I grew up in Orange County, I didn't have a lot of mentors. I didn't have a lot of people to look up to. I didn't have any people. I had no one. My mom was a single mother and she was a very good mom, but she was a single mom. And she did own a restaurant, but she didn't really work. So she didn't really have a career. And I didn't have anyone that was kind of steering me in any direction. And so I know there's other people that feel like I did growing up here in Orange County, whether their mother or whatever their family situation is, they want people to aspire to, and every person in this book is self-made and they're incredible people. So I would hope that someday people, not that this is a children's book, but young adults will read this book, be inspired by these people.
Well, and I just came from the Catholic Foundation's event this morning at the Hyatt in Irvine, and we were talking about that, and it's funny because yes, I mean I think people don't maybe they underestimate, maybe they don't really give it a lot of thought, but that mentorship that happens at an early part in your life make a big difference in what you do, the path that you take, what have you. So to provide those examples through that, and now were some of these people that you have in the book what you would consider mentors for yourself?
No, none of them were mentors for myself. No, but as a way sort of to give back right now, I've been a mentor at Newport Harbor High School. I think like 12 or 15 years. I forget. But I have a student a year, and they job shadow me, and I try to give them advice. And that is a program that Newport Harbor High School has. It's wonderful. I don't think that
awesome.
a lot of schools have that.
Yeah.
But if you're a child and you want to be a brain surgeon, you can go in and watch a brain surgery. What they're offering at Newport Harbor High School is very impressive.
Which usually sometimes it happens at college, but
Yeah.
the sooner the better, I think. And high school is a great place because a lot of people are trying to figure out also what they want to do. And so that's
true.
an opportunity to check out a few things while you're still in high school.
I want to clarify something because I did some posting on because I went to some your book signing events, and some comments say, "Well, he or she was not born in OC."
Yes.
But people didn't get it. I was not born in OC, but OC gave me a birth in my business, in my future, in my life. I think that's what you want.
Perfect segue, because I was going to ask you, like we had talked before the show. Pascal's in there. He's not born in OC.
Exactly.
So where did the name come from? And can you explain describe?
It's not so much that the people in my book have to be born here, but something they created. An idea was what grew here. There's opportunities here.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the people like Anton Segerstrom, he was born in Orange County.
Right.
He's probably one of the more well-known people, or people that have started companies here. That is, I mean. The Quicksilver was born in
Sure.
Orange County. I mean, a lot of these big surf brands. Yeah. So there's a lot of big
But I love that. I love the fact that it's not a literal. It's actually, it could be an idea. It could be a spark. It could be something that basically led to a movement, whatever. Like that was your approach. Because, the interesting thing about that, Greer, is that you could be rolling out second and third volumes of this thing, and
Yes.
it's really endless because
It is.
something happens in this genre or that fits this description on a daily basis in Orange County.
I know I thought of a lot of people want me to write a second book. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I've also thought like maybe I should do younger people because there are some younger people that are doing amazing things.
Absolutely.
That could be very interesting. I don't know. TBD. I think I said at my last talk, when I had one child, I said I'm not having any more kids. It's very difficult.
Maybe
and then
should be like the future of the OC.
yeah, and then I had 4. So.
Well, but like for example, I remember like with the SC Times when Norb, it was since sold it, but when Norb basically started out in San Clemente, they did a young surfer section at the end of every issue. So it could almost be where you're doing a Born in OC kind of segment that could maybe fit under the Greer's OC kind of email blast.
Yeah, that's a good
without it really being a book, and then eventually it can be expanded if you want to. But I love that idea, and I had no idea. So thank you for bringing that up. The fact that it is really the inspiration, the business, whatever, wonderful. And then how you interviewed so many people. You had so many to pick from. I'm not going to put you on the spot. You can answer this question any way you want, but like, how did you decide who ended up?
A good meal.
You bribed her with your
Yeah.
duck confit.
Yes. Well, Pascal was an easy one because he basically, in my opinion, brought French cuisine here to Orange County, and or at least a better version of French
A finer
cuisine.
version, yeah.
And there, I mean, back in the day, I mean, you had in my memory, you had quite a few really wonderful restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And you're still going strong, so I love
you.
that.
Thank you
Very,
very much.
very much love that. So, how did I choose these people?
Yeah.
It was hard. I mean, it was hard because there are so many, but I made a list of different industries. I reached out to these people. There were other people I reached out to, and they didn't understand the vision, so, and I don't know if I made a mistake, but it was a lot of work for me because before I contacted each person, I did a lot of research on them. So in the event that they said yes right away, then I would give them these questions and organize a meeting. So that was a lot of work, and it took a lot of time, just all of these people are very busy people. So, but I ended up interviewing 50 people for the book. So yeah.
So your interviews were specifically for the book. They weren't like from stuff that you had done before.
No,
These are
just for the book.
specifically So the book therefore is very current. When did it come out?
It
Greer?
just came
recently,
out,
right?
Yeah, it just came out end of 2024. Yeah.
It took about 3 years to put it together.
About 5 years.
Wow.
5 years.
Yeah,
I
it took a long
remember
time.
when you did the shooting.
Well,
yeah.
then also because we had COVID,
Sure.
so that was a difficult,
Sure.
So yeah, it took 5 years.
Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of people sometimes these days, it seems like everybody has a book,
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is true.
right?
Yes,
And they seem to get thinner right? With harder covers, right? But it's good to know that this was like a labor of love that took for a number of reasons, probably also to collect all the interviews, right? And people are busy.
Yes.
It took a while. It wasn't just something that you
I
just
had
put
no
out.
idea what she was going to do with,
Yes.
with the interview or the picture.
Yeah, I met everybody. I tried to meet everyone in person. I took their photos, or at least the people that would let me take pictures. And so yeah, and it took a long time. And then of course I had to get all approval
Sure.
on the interviews. So yeah.
And I have to
editing.
say, your way to write, of course, you're a great writer. Your English is fantastic. I can say that, But
I mean, a compliment from a Frenchman about her English. That's pretty.
you,
in a French accent,
Yes.
nonetheless.
we,
Oui.
but it's pleasant to read.
Thank you.
Anybody can read it one page after another one, and nothing just going to, I need to stop. What do I mean? No, you just flow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was with my interviews, a lot of them, some of the interviews took 3 hours. And so I would, edit that down because I couldn't do a 3-hour, interview in a book, or it would
Right.
just be one book. So, I mean, getting all the information down, I had an editor in New York who was excellent. She's obviously not from Orange County. So she was really looking at it from an outsider's view. So that was really great.
Invaluable,
So
yeah.
she was like, well, I don't know about this and I don't understand this. And so that was she was a very good editor for me. So that helped too. So there's a lot of back and forth and
Well, but that makes the book also applicable to somebody who's not in Orange County reading it, versus somebody who maybe has a vested interest in reading it because they live in Orange County or they're part of Orange County scene. That's really very cool. And it is available on Amazon. And you said it flows very nicely. I found the same thing. I've always enjoyed your reading and your writing. So it was very much your voice. And I love the fact that when somebody writes a book, they actually narrate their own book.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And no, seriously, because I'm reading the voice of the writer. Like when I read somebody's voice and it's a passionate thing in a certain direction, and you figure you have this visual that that writer has this kind of bent, and then somebody else who has a good voice, but it's not the writer.
She's a reporter.
It loses a little bit of something. There's a layer that gets lost. So I love the fact that you narrated your own book,
thank you.
and that's available now on audiobooks, right? Yeah.
And Barnes and Noble too.
Huh?
Barnes and Noble too.
Barnes and
Barnes and
Noble,
Noble as well.
Amazon.
Yeah.
It's an ebook as well because I know people. I'm not an ebook person, but
Right.
people like ebooks. But yeah, it's on Spotify. The audiobook is on Spotify and maybe Apple, I think, and audiobooks. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Audible.
It could be a long answer, but you can make it short.
Short question, long answer. Okay. Go ahead.
What time is it?
We're good. We're good. We've got plenty of time.
So, can you give some tips for people who now they may get an idea? I want to write my book. I have this thing. I want to talk about it. A few tips. How do we get going on this?
Well, I would, if you are someone that wants to write a book, hopefully you'll know someone that's also written a book, so you can ask them their advice. And that's exactly what I did. I have a couple friends that wrote books. One of them told me to go on a website called REEDSY, REEDSY.com. And it's a plethora of people on there, information editors, different authors who will write the book for you. But you can go on there and kind of like TaskRabbit, and you can put your idea up on this REEDSY, and you can say, I need an artist, I need a cover, or I need an editor. And you can find people through there, and they will help you. And that's what I did. That's how I found my editor.
I love your
So-
answer. Great answer. Thank you.
So yeah, but and then I also talked to friends who, what are the pros and cons of doing self-publishing versus having a publisher? And I went back and forth on that. My friend Gustavo Arellano, he's written like 3 or 4, maybe more books. I don't know if you know Gustavo. He used to be at OC Weekly. He was the editor.
Oh, yes.
And so he's
Yes.
got a lot of really good books. And he gave me the pros and cons of self-publishing versus publishing. Self-publishing, the pros were you have more control, and you can design the cover yourself. You can decide when the book's coming out. And then there's different things. Monetizing,
Right.
is different. So I decided that self-publishing was better for
Self-publishing
me.
was
Yeah.
What I want to just switch gears for a second about just content, okay, or on a bigger picture, maybe relevance, okay. When you started Greer's OC,
Yes.
it was a blog, it was a newsletter, or an email blast, right? Now there's just so much noise out there. There's so much content out there, right? Obviously, if somebody is established, they have an advantage because you have a following, that translates to another medium, and then you build on that. How do you what advice do you give somebody who's either going to develop a blog or is going to do a podcast or is going to get into content development? In this market, in today's market, how do they basically have a unique voice or get that relevance and not get lost in the noise?
Well, that is such a difficult question, but I would say do research for one. Try to stand out from other people by having a niche, whatever that niche is, and just do research and find out what other people are doing in that genre, and I don't want to say copy, but almost like emulate whoever is successful in that.
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
And also I've heard that, social media is so big now, but then I've heard that now e-newsletters, like what I've been doing for so long, that they're getting more popular. So
That's coming
I mean,
back a little bit. Yeah.
So, and I mean, yeah, I would just do research.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of driving, so I do a lot of audiobooks, right? But I agree with you. I can't help myself. Certain books, I don't want to not have the tactile. I don't want to not have the time where I sit down and literally read, whether it's night or in the middle of the day or like an hour at lunch or whatever it is. So you're right. I mean, that in a way is that niche or that unique value proposition that you're bringing, right? But I wanted to ask the question because you have a long experience with the development of content, and it continues to be relevant. I mean, when we started doing this show, it was like I knew we were not going to do audio only. We needed to do video,
Yeah.
right? These days, it's not almost not an option anymore.
Yeah,
Like you got to have both, right?
Yeah, it's very popular.
And then how do you leverage the content? How do you get multiple exposure on the content? But that's a great idea. Like most people jump into it. You're saying just do your research in advance.
And things are always changing.
Yeah.
I went into
Very
Costco
fast.
the other day because a friend of mine said that I should try to get my book in Costco. I went into Costco to try to see if they would take my book, and they said, we just 2 weeks ago stopped carrying books. We're not doing books anymore. People are buying ebooks now only. So I was like, whoa. I
It was like
don't
one
know.
of the few places that you would browse
Yeah.
while right by the clothes. But
Yeah, they did. I mean, I always loved buying books
Yeah, I
at
did
Costco.
too.
So, but yeah, I mean, things are always changing, So audiobooks are more popular. They say I prefer real tangible books, but it just depends on the person. So,
And what's next? What are you excited about?
Actually, before we go there,
Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
one question.
Yeah.
Is
Is this
there
a short one again?
long answer? Is there any story you want to say about some
Yeah.
of the people you pick here that you're really proud to have them in the book or something like that?
well, if you, of course, yourself, Pascal, for sure. Of course, you. I also was very excited and proud to get Anton Segerstrom because I know he doesn't talk to a lot of
Yes,
people.
true.
Yeah.
And what he has created, what his family has created in Orange County, we could never thank him enough, thank them enough.
Right.
You know, we have world-class theater here. The shopping people come from all over the
So
world
much culture.
to shop here.
Yeah.
Now with the OCMA, the museum is unbelievable. And I went to the opening of that, and the way the architect built that is to last like in Europe, like where things last for hundreds of years.
Right.
So that will be something, you know, hopefully a gathering spot for hundreds of years or many
Right,
years.
right.
And they really thought that out, and then they're going to start having this community in that area, you know, housing around there. That was really cool. I also interviewed, I mean, I love all of these people a lot. But I thought William Wang was very interesting. The way he created Vizio, and his idea was to create a TV that was more affordable. You know, you remember back in the day, I think in the early 2000s, you wanted a flat screen TV. It was like $10,000. You know. I mean, it was ridiculous. And he created the technology to have a flat screen TV that was like $500 that you could buy at Costco. And he's had a long partnership with Costco. And I mean, that is incredible. And
Yeah.
and every year they get better and better, but they're more affordable, which, you know.
And you even have a famous writer in your book.
Yeah, I have in my book, I have Dean Koontz. That was really
How
huge.
can you write about him?
I mean, Dean Koontz, sorry, I should have mentioned him from the get-go, but he is probably one of the most prolific, most successful authors of our time right now.
Right.
And so to get him, and he is very private, and he is a very hard worker. He gets up at like 7 a.m. and just sits down at his desk, and he writes till 5 every day. He's very regimented, and then he goes out to dinner with his wife afterwards, but he's amazing. Yeah. So I didn't get to meet him in person because he's very private. He sent me a photo, but that was really cool. And I got him by writing, I hand wrote him a letter. So
That's wonderful. That's
So that-
that's wonderful. Get what other nuggets did you get from some of these interviews that you want to
Well,
share?
like what I interviewed a man who is not well known, because a lot of people in this book are very well known. Some of them are not well known. A friend of mine, Zoe Stevens, and he has type 1 diabetes like my son. I met him years ago at an art show that he created, and all of the art there was to be raising funds for what was JDRF at the time. But what I love about Zoe is that he is a Disney artist. He goes to Disneyland every day, and he's painted the Matterhorn, and he paints a lot of the scenery at Disney. But what I love about him is that he has raised over $2 million for type 1 diabetes research by selling his paintings, which is just amazing. You know, I just think that's,
Talk about a person making a difference.
He's making a huge difference, and he's like very much on the DL, but he's a very talented artist. So.
See, I got to tell you something. You know, we live in a county that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We also live in a county that's very can be showy, can have sort of that layer a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have always, to me, have been able to really just navigate those waters with such grace.
Thank you.
Seriously, and with such poise and like authentic genuineness that it's even in the book. Like what you just said, like there are famous people in this book, and there are people that are not so famous, and you selected from a multitude of options that you had. And so even the book reflects the personality of the author. So that's wonderful, really.
Thank you. And with each person that I interviewed, I try to bring it back to Orange County, like what Orange County means to them. You know, a lot of people do remember when there were orange groves everywhere, you know. So they
Strawberry fields where the spectrum was, remember that?
Those fun memories. And I interviewed one of the founders of High Time Wine Cellars. He moved here, I think, in 1947. His mom bought 2 acres in Costa Mesa for $500. So, and he remembers goats and pigs and cows running around Costa Mesa. So that was really fun because he's a legend. He's in his mid-90s, so that was really neat.
Any of the interviews were surprising for you?
No,
You kind
not
of knew
really.
enough about
She
the
won't
people?
tell us.
No, not really. Not really. No. I mean, I know I'll think about it when I'm driving home, but not that I
Or
can
like
think
a
of.
moment. Did you have any, or
Not,
maybe reflecting on the material after you interviewed them?
no, not that
Okay.
I can really think of. No, but that's a hard question.
Actually,
Yeah, I was just curious
Actually,
because sometimes it's like an
maybe that-
unexpected experience from,
that's
you
the
know,
one that she interviewed.
other than when you interviewed Pascal. I'm
no,
sure there was a whole
that's the
bunch
one
of
who
them.
she interviewed are not in the book.
Well,
Oh yeah, yes, yes. Well, I did
Yeah.
interview a designer from Orange County.
Yeah.
And my whole thing on Orange County is I love Orange County, and I don't want anyone talking negatively
Yeah.
about it. And you
Right.
could do that if you want to, but
Yeah.
it's just not what I wanted. So she was very negative about Orange County. So
well, that's
I
no,
yeah.
yeah.
So I interviewed her. I spent the time and this and that. Talked to my editor back and forth, and we were like, no. So I just hit Control Alt Delete. So
Yeah.
I didn't include her.
Well, I think it's funny in a way. We've been around long enough to have a thread of time that helps actually get a sense of the depth and of value that the county has. I remember I was working with the California Preservation Foundation. They were putting on their annual conference, and we talked about they had never done it for the county wide. They usually do it for city specific, right? But we wanted the California Historical Society. We wanted them to do the whole county, and they were like, well, we can't do the whole county. There's no connectivity with the whole county, whatever. And we're like, no, there is, because there's even a history of the railroad and how it connected these communities.
Yes, for
And starting with that, then we built onto all this. So like people sometimes they don't realize just what wealth of culture, what wealth of history, the connectivity that actually, the story that is Orange County. And yes, that sometimes people get negative. And it's like, maybe look a little closer.
I think they
And
went
I think that's where your book is really very helpful for people.
going back to what you said. They
Yeah.
go off track.
The train goes off track. Yes,
Yeah.
they get off track. Right.
Yeah, totally.
Right now, it was fascinating. They looked at us like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, you
Yeah.
can connect the stories
Yeah.
with the railroad because the railroad is part of the story."
Yeah, totally.
You know, and everything from Fullerton to the WPA murals that were discovered in the police station when they took down the panels because somebody had put in air conditioning and closed it off with acoustical tiles.
San Juan
Years later, like, oh my God,
Capistrano.
San Juan Capistrano, the mural at the Fullerton College that was basically I think it was a Diego Rivera. I think it was a Diego Rivera mural that was whitewashed over and then basically reclaimed years later. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the book. I
Of
think it's a
course.
major benefit for Orange County. And everybody, I encourage everybody to, I started it, I did not finish it, and I have to admit, I was listening to Greer's voice in the car,
You know,
but I will get a hard copy. I do want a hard copy.
The beautiful thing, you did write history.
Yes.
This
You
is the
did,
meat.
yeah.
There forever, people are going to put that back in time, and this is it. This is now.
Yes.
Well, when we started this show, when Paul basically made the mistake of saying, "Hey, do you want to do a show?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, why not?" We actually were focusing a little bit more on like baby boomers, right? And Paul being the poster child, and like some of the difficult conversations that were not being had, and we thought, well, let's have them in an empowerment voice and maybe have a little fun with them. But one of the things that became very apparent, and I think it's more clear for people as we get older as a demographic in the county, is that these stories are important to capture. Whether they're internal in your own family, whether you're just turning on a camera, or whether it's like somebody like Greer basically taking interest in some people, but you have your own icons in your own family. And in some cases, when you don't capture those, then the following generation doesn't benefit because you don't have that.
True. Yes.
Right? So you're right. She has basically captured history in the book. Please go check out Greer's book, Born in OC. It's on Amazon. It's in Barnes & Noble, I am told, and it is available on audio if you don't want to flip through the pages, although something nice about paper
Yes.
in your fingers, right? I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so
Go-
It's
much.
been a real pleasure.
Go see.
Go OC.
Go OC. And check out Greer's website. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Greer's OC.
Okay,
It's
cool.
it's so much content, and it's a joy to read. Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you
being
so
you.
much. It was
Okay,
super fun.
All right.
So good to see you both.
Paul, thanks for having us, and I hope it was interesting for you too. I don't think he has ever been this quiet.
I'm just listening.
Honestly, I don't think he's
I'm
ever been this
listening
quiet.
to the story of Orange County and how it was born.
Very nice. Yes.
Paul Roberts has lost the ability to weigh in. I mean, if you did not listen to the show, you should listen to the show for
Just for that
how
reason.
quiet Paul Roberts
I'm
is.
trying to reflect. I'm trying to learn.
He's cutting off now.
Okay, Paul, that's it. We're done now. Thank you, Greer, for being here.
Thank
sir.
you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
That was super fun.
Yeah, it was a
Super
lot of
fun.